Wow, what an amazing feeling in the room this morning. It's absolutely exceptional. And I've been looking forward to this session so much because this is the first time that I've ever really publicly told my story. But I want to do more than just tell you a story. I want you to leave with more than that was a great story, but that was her story. I want to share maybe some of the tips and tools that I've learnt that has actually taken me on this journey. So I am now 55, gloriously 55, absolutely loving the freedom that comes with the second life and the choices that we make. So for the first time in my life, and it's sad that I'm saying this, I actually feel that first of all, I am enough and that I actually am an extraordinary woman.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. And the power of those words, and this is the work that I do, is language. I want to share how this journey has been languaged with the conversation that we have with ourselves. Because in 1999, I thought that my life was set, married to a church minister. It was going to be happily ever after. Well, that didn't happen. Life kind of got in the way. And when you get divorced from a church minister, you lose your house, you lose your car, you lose the teaspoons, you lose your linen. It's a little bit like being on the weakest link. You leave with nothing. And I had two young boys, Richard and Michael. They were about 9 and 10. And I was working as a secretary, and I knew that my secretarial salary would not even cover their school fees. Never mind the life that I wanted for my children. And if there was one thing that I wanted for my children, was the best possible education. And that's probably the first tip that I would love to leave with you, is what got me through those difficult 10 years was this powerful, dominant picture of seeing my boys cross the university stage at their graduation. And that's what got me through the late nights, the early mornings, how am I going to pay the bills? Where am I going to get money for bread this week? So I made probably the stupidest decision I've ever made. I chose to start my own business with no knowledge, no skill, no experience. And if it was my older self talking to my younger self, my older self probably would have said, go and get a better job. And yet I didn't. I chose to take this leap of faith into the darkness. And I'm not a natural entrepreneur. I'm actually quite conservative, quite risk averse. So I had no idea how I was going to do this. But my ex-boss said to me, he said, Bev, you are great at teaching people how to use the computer. And I said, but I'm so scared. I've got no safety net. And he said something to me that took me through those 10 years. He said, Bev, you are your own safety net. Mm-hmm. And that picture of knowing that who we are, we have everything that we need to be extraordinary. But in my family, I was the ordinary one. I have a very talented, genius sister. My brother was dyslexic. My mom had 4 kids very close together. So she was busy trying to just keep her head above water and be a mom. And one thing she said to me, I was the easiest baby in the world because she could put me in a corner and I would get on with it. Right, my sister was temperamental. She was a prima donna and kept my mom really busy. And to a certain extent, growing up ordinary has its own benefits. And I only realized this later. I grew up outside of the shadow of other people's expectations. I wasn't expected to shine. I wasn't expected to be first in class. I wasn't expected to be the doctor, the lawyer, whatever it is that the expectations that people in our lives bring to us. So every time I achieved something, the response was, oh, wow, Bev did that. And to a certain extent, there was a freedom in being free from other people's expectations. So if you feel that you're under those expectations, how do you actually step away from those and allow yourself to flourish and to grow? So having started my own business, putting my 2 boys through school, I remember their graduation. It was the most beautiful day of my life. But we weren't quite there yet because my youngest son was training to be a chartered accountant. And in order to become a chartered accountant, you have to write a board exam 1 and do your articles and do board exam 2. And about a year and a half later, I got a call from my young son and his best friend, who had kind of moved in at the age of 13 and didn't move out until the end of university. So I actually had two sons doing this. I got a telephone call, and I remember I was on my way back from a contract that I was working on. And they were both crying on the other side of the phone. They had just passed Board 2. And in that moment, I graduated. That was my moment of graduation, where I realized that everything that I'd done on this extraordinary journey, and yet still, I didn't feel like I was good enough. I did my first master's degree because I thought if I do that, people will think that I'm clever. All right. I did that, and people did think I was clever, but I still didn't feel like I was enough. So I did a second master's degree and absolutely loved that. And then I went on to start my PhD, and then came to the awesome realization that the work that I've got to be doing in the world is on the ground, not in the university. And so I gave that up and realized that I didn't need a PhD. I didn't need a doctor behind my name, because I had got to that point where I was enough. And if I get my doctorate sometimes later, it will simply be so that I can add to the body of knowledge, not because it makes me a better and a stronger person. So I had to set a new goal. I had to set a new dream. And I did it using a word a year. So this is the last tool I want to leave with you. A friend of mine and I have this process where every year we choose one word, and that word guides our journey for that year. My first word was ascend. How do I ascend to the next level? How do I become even more than I was before? My next word, and this was a very important word for me, was focus. I had to say no to the things that I shouldn't be doing in order to make space for the things I should be doing. And my word for this year is global. Where am I now? I'm in London, sharing the world with you, opening up my global marketplace. So my last tip to leave you, perhaps the big thing. I have learned to step into rooms that I don't belong in, and then belong. And that's what I leave you with. Thank you.